Okay, welcome to another episode of Fixing Bugs and Stuff. And today we're going to start working on building the long block. So first thing we have to do is we have to lap the cylinders to each of the valve heads. And I'll show you how that's going to be done here in just a second. Hang in there. Okay, now that I have the cylinders here, I previously labeled them, as you saw in another video, the dots here, 1, 2, 3. So number 3, of course, we'll go to number 3. And this should be number 4, 4 dots. And I also marked it here, 3 and 4. No big issues. And so what lapping means that I'm gonna have to put some lapping compound in here. And then what we do is we take the cylinder head onto here and we kind of twist it back and forth until it mates very well. And what the lapping compound does, it's kind of like a tiny bit of grit, like a little sandpaper. And what it does, it kind of evens out the whole face of this so it goes in pretty flat. And the flatter it is, the better. That way it seals very well. So that'll be next. What I'm going to do is going to put some blue dye in here. And that'll tell me what the flat areas are. And then I'll add the compound. And we'll see from there. Okay, so I add the blue dye in here. As you can see, it's all the way around. And so I am going to use some lapping compound here. And I'm going to put a little bit around the area. Then I'm going to lap the cylinder here to it. And then you take cylinder here, put it on top. This is number 3. And you start going back and forth like that. And you can hear it grinding. And then the noise or the sound will change. Lift it out and see what I got. As you can see here, grinded off the blue pretty well. I don't see any extreme flat areas. So that's good. Okay, let me bring you here for a second. As you can see, there's like a ring around here. And that's basically, I could feel just a tiny bit of a ledge, just a small, tiny bit of a ledge. And now that's number 3 is gonna be sealed very well. So once I'm done with that cylinder, I'm gonna put it off to the side and this one's ready to go. Okay, so we're ready to put the cylinder on here with the heads, but before we do that, I want to measure the deck height of the cylinder, meaning the deck height of the piston, see how far it goes up. And I recommend doing that with anything. It has to do with combustion and compression. So even though this is a stock, you really don't have to do it. But for this one, I just want to show you how it's done. So we're going to install in cylinder number 2 here. Should be labeled number 2. There we go. I'm gonna install it here, and then we'll add the deck height tool and see where we're at. So just bring it down in. All right, so I'm gonna push this all the way through. Tap this in ever so gently with the 15mm socket. This also ensures that the other clip is good. Make sure it can spin. Yep, it can spin. So it's seated in there pretty good. You can start lowering this down. Be sure you take the rag out. Now we're not adding any kind of shims here just yet. No sealant, no nothing, it's just bare metal. So we'll just push it down. Goes in there pretty good. Now we're measuring the deck height. Deck height from this edge to where the piston is. So we'll use this tool. This half moon goes down. And there's spacers for it. One goes there. Let's go here. short. See, it's kind of down a little bit, so we'll add some more washers to that. We'll double up on that guy. We'll add washers to all of them. And then we're gonna add the nuts. Now, this is a long, tedious process, but you only have to do to one cylinder. That's the good part. And the rest of them should match. Now, if they don't match, then we got other issues. And something's up. Should left the rag there. I'm just afraid of losing one of these nuts inside of the block. As soon as I say it, it'll happen. Let me grab a rag. I'll put a rag in here. Make me nervous. Put a rag in here. I do not trust myself. Torque these down to 28 foot-pounds. Reason being is, and then the book says 23, I believe 23 to 25 foot-pounds. You have to check on that, but I think it's 23. And the reason why I'm doing 28 is because I do have case savers and also have a 10 millimeter stud here. So you can go up to 28. That's the max you should go. Anything beyond that, you're gonna stretch these studs. I'm doing a cross pattern. So at this point, once this is all torqued down, you can move your flywheel back and forth. See where you get the largest height. Here you can see it as you move the flywheel back and forth when it goes up and down. You want to hit the sweet spot. And then use feeler gauges here. So I'm going to try to use that first. And sometimes you got to use a combination of them. Okay, so I used multiple feeler gauges here to see what I came out to be. It's like 20 thousandths, 19 thousandths, and 11 thousandths. So that gives you a total of about 50 thousandths of clearance in here. Okay, now that we got our numbers, we're going to enter into the computer here. This is from JBugs. There's several places that you can get compression ratios by entering the information. So right now we have an 85.5 millimeter bore, and then we have a 69 millimeter stroke. Of course, the deck height we measure was 0.050, and we know what the CC is. It was 54. That's what it's measured out to be. Nothing here on the compression ratio just yet. So if we hit compression here, now it's saying it's a 1585, and it's got a ratio of 7.5 to 1, basically. Okay, so we have the 7.5 to 1 ratio here, and it's looking good. It's telling you the CC here, which eventually you round it up to 1600 CC. If you scroll down, this is JBug's information here, and it'll tell you here. Let's see if we can find it. The engine compression ratio right here. It says Type 1 engines from the factory typically had 7.5 to 1, and that's what I'm sticking at right now. So if I were to change this number to 0.055 that some books recommend, it's changing the ratio a little bit. So I think we're in good shape. Even if you go down to 7.4 here, I wouldn't worry about it too much. You're close enough. Okay. So again, there's a lot of opinions on compression ratio, and if you want to know more information about it, here on JBugs, they'll tell you what the compression ratio means, blah blah blah, what they do for high performance engines. But that'll be another build. Okay, we're gonna move on. Now it's time for me to take this off. So what I want to do is drop this down, and then actually it should lift up a little bit, just like that. And I kind of want to slowly lift this so I can take that little C-clip out. But I don't want to take this thing out totally, but sometimes it happens, and then I'm going to have to use the ring compression tool. So a little bit at a time. Okay, think I have enough clearance to get the clip out. I'm gonna start installing the cylinders. Now, I put some Yamabond on here, on the edge here, not too much. Just a small bead, add a little bit of Yamabond to here on this surface, not much. Again, I'm gonna install this. I'm not using paper gaskets. The paper gaskets they have these days are not that great. So, like you saw earlier, for me to check the deck height, I'm gonna install this cylinder. Same way, same thing. So let's install this guy. Now, if you're using any kind of sealant, just follow the directions of what it suggests to do. Go by that. The other cylinder on, but you're gonna have to hold this one because it can't move. I want to get this up as far as I can. See how that moves? Gotta be careful. We're on it. Now, I'm not gonna spin the flywheel here at any point because these like to jump around. And it takes like 24 hours for that to really fully cure. I'm talking about the Yamabond. So, at this point, this is a big deal. You guys know what you need to do at this point. I will show you. I have missed this so many times. Over and over, and I have to take the whole engine apart. This is critical. A lot of people just are too lazy to put them back in once they forget about them. Let me show you. Ah, it's these guys, the deflector shields. And they go in like this. So I'm gonna put these on. Probably have to shape them a little bit because these are aftermarket. So shape them a little bit, that way they stay in here properly, they'll snap in. And then once that's done, I'm gonna put the head on top of here. But first, I'm gonna snap these in. I'm sure you guys don't want to see me fumble with this, putting this in, but it's pretty self-explanatory. These notches go onto these studs here, and there's some on the other side for the bottom. And that's how it goes. Now these are shorter because the cylinder here tapers down. Where up top, it tapers a little wider. So that's why there's different sizes, if you're curious. All right, let me put these in, and then I'll put you guys back on for the heads. Okay, as you can see, the deflector is the most important right there. Most important, make sure you put those in. They snap right in, no issues. Now the next thing will be the heads. So I always recommend doing one set at a time. That way you're not flustered or get confused. I always get a new kit all the time. O-ring's pretty good. So I get everything new. I also got new hardware too to go with everything. So let me grab the hardware. Let's get everything set up, and then we can start putting on this head here. Okay, we're prepping up the pushrod tubes here, and got the gaskets on there. If you look at these pushrod tubes, they are stainless, and it's the windage ones. I don't think I need the windage ones. I'm not going to be turning a lot of corners, but there's a certain way these go in. Also, I pre-stretch them too. You take them in your hand, or you can take your thumb here and just push it out a little bit like that, and that'll stretch it. Let's do it 4 sides, and do the same thing on the other side. So these are already done. I just got to add gaskets to that one, and we'll install into the engine. Okay, getting back to these windage tubes. The long end goes into the block itself. Okay, for the gasket, I use dielectric grease here. Doesn't harm the silicone at all. I put it on both ends. The reason why I use it is because this is kind of clear, as you can see here. And when I put it on, it sticks pretty well. And also, it's able for me to turn this without any harm. Also, if you're running the engine, you'll be able to see any leaks. Some people use oil or grease. And I always get concerned about that because then I think it's leaking, but it's not leaking, and blah, 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 and on and on. So also, with these kind of tubes, let me show you real quick. I know you guys are going to freak out about this, but if I put my finger in here and then turn this, no blood, no cuts, no nothing. Isn't that great? These are from CB Performance, and I don't know what they do on these ends, but they're not really sharp at all. It's pretty amazing. You know, you guys know how it is when you build engines. These will cut you. You will bleed like crazy messing with these things. I've cut myself so many times. It's just, I don't know how many pints of blood I've lost. But I just wanted to point that out. So let me grab the heads. Let's get ready and let's start installing it. So I'm kind of wiggling the cylinder head. And she's on there, but she's not on there all the way. You don't want it to be because you still have to put the push rod tubes in. So we'll face the seam up and then push these in. So it's going to be like lifting and pushing in, not lifting, but whoops. You kind of have to raise it up and then push these in, make sure the seam's up, let her back down. These will move a lot. So what will happen is, instead of trying to fight this whole thing, let me back off a little bit more. Instead of trying to fight all four of these, because these will flop around and move, what I found is if you take a push rod tube, you stick it in here, it'll kind of keep it center, and then you can see the push rod up here. You can kind of maneuver it around so you can not lose the centering of your push rod tube, if that makes any sense. Just a little trick I found out throughout the years. Just me. You don't have to do it that way. Do it wherever you want. So it's time to put these nuts and washers on. I'll show you, but I want to use both hands because I've dropped stuff into the engine I've dropped it down into this tube, and I think these will fit. I'm not sure. I don't want to find out. Okay, before we start torquing everything down, so many books say so many different things and how to torque these down in what order. So what I normally do is I'll start torquing things down about 7 foot-pounds. Try to get the push rod tubes kind of close enough where they don't spin. That's why I go to 7 foot-pounds. First, the 7-foot torque, just to get these tightened, and then it'll be the stock torque. And so the way the book says, I'm going to do 23 foot-pounds on this guy first. All right, so that's the initial 23 foot-pounds. Now, what I like to do is just turn it upside down just to make sure all the gaskets are okay. It's crying. Give you guys a look. These look good. They're seated in there. Pretty good. If it's not right, you can always loosen it and fix it. It's not a big deal. All right, it's good. The next torque will be 28 foot-pounds, and that's because we talked about earlier, because we have the case savers and the 10mm studs. Okay, once we torqued everything, we want to check this side, make sure the seals have not gone through. That's happened before, where the seals just kind of hard for me to focus, where they just sail through. That one's kind of tight, but it should be sealed, no problem. Those look good. If you're unsure, take a look on the inside here. Let's see, those all look good there. Let's take a look. This one was in question. As you can see, it's totally sealed. See, it's sealed all the way around. That's most important. And the way these seals work, I mean, I've seen, well, Porsche use like an O-ring. As long as you capture the rubber here, which that one does, it should be good to go. These are silicone, so they last a good while. All right, so this side is torqued. Now we'll wait a couple hours. We'll come in and we'll double check them again using the same sequence. Let's continue on. I still have to put silicone behind here or on these threads down here. So I'm not gonna show that, that's pretty boring. The next will be on the other side, so let's do that. Let's start building the other side. Same as this side. Okay, I finished torquing everything else here. Torqued 28 foot-pounds. According to the book, if you have case savers, which I do, you can see them right there. There's case savers in there. And 10mm studs, then you can do 28 foot-pounds. Other than that, you're gonna be stretching some studs. So at this point, I think we're good. We can call this one, ooh, it's crying. Stan's crying. At this point, we can say we completed the long block. Pretty much. Just have to add the rocker assembly and the push rods, and that should wrap it up in completing the long block. So this is where we're at. Again, do not forget to use those deflector plates underneath the cylinder. Many people have forgotten them. I have forgotten them and have to tear this all back down again. That's just a waste of time. But anyway, if you like this video, please comment below or comment and let me know if I did something wrong or if you suggest I should do something different, or if you have any other ideas, yeah, put it down below. Let me know. Let me know what you think. All right, guys, you have a good one and we'll continue this build on. I think the next series will be, basically we'll adjust the valves, put the rocker assembly in, adjust the valves, and call it done. I gotta put this off to the side because I gotta get on that baby over there. So that'll be the next video too as well. All right, guys, have a good one.